So I'd like to welcome up to the stage Kristina. Kristina has around 18 years experience, I believe, with content. Your current role, Technical Communication and Process Development Manager, Standard Communications.
Yep.
But you've worked in gaming, radio and medical, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Award-winning for process development.
Yeah.
So today's talk is something that I'm super interested in, about leading and developing teams, specifically the remote element of it, so both local and remote writing teams. So put your hands together for Kristina.
So just quickly, my background. According to my mother, I took a very early interest in technical writing about age 10, where I started picking up manuals and critiquing them rather viciously. I studied engineering, and a career counselor that I had suggested that I start looking at a career as a technical writer, because he knew I was spending a lot of time writing and reading, and obviously put two and two together. I spent time when I moved to Australia, and I didn't think my technical English was good enough to be a technical writer, so I spent some time as a draftsman. When I got a phone call one day with someone saying, would you like to apply for a technical writing job? And I didn't think I was going to get it. And I interviewed for giggles, basically, and I didn't get the job. But they created another position for me. So that's how it started 18 years ago for me. 3 years into that job, the manager that we had left, and I was given the job as team leader. And the rest is history, really, I think. It's been a long time coming. So I'm going to go through this presentation. I'm not going to spend too much time because I really want to get to the good part for me, and that's you guys asking me questions, which is much more fun for me than talking. So local and global teams. When I started out as a team leader, I had all of my writers with me, and I had a team of 6, eventually grew to 7. But I also then started having people that were located in other parts of the world. And the challenge then is, how do you integrate those people in the team, and how do you get everybody on the same page with the time differences and what have you? When I was at ResMed, I had 7 people working for me at ResMed, and then I had another 3 people working with the team in different time zones across the world. So I had one guy in Munich, I had another person in San Diego, another person in Halifax. So the challenge that we have when we have local and global teams with the global ones is obviously getting them on board with the team. But whether the teams are local or global, you have to have that cohesion in the team. You have to have everybody knowing what they're doing and following the same vision. In global teams, the forming of connections between your team members is going to be the major challenge. And interestingly enough, it's not the geographical difference that's the problem most of the time. It's actually the social connection between people to get them to feel like they're actually part of the team. And it's always more of a challenge for the team and the manager if you have most of the team located with the manager, because you tend to then concentrate on the team you have with you and forget about the people that are sitting in other locations. It's also easier, obviously almost, to form a connection within the team and with your team members if you have clear visions and goals for the team, and also common processes. And I have to say processes because I'm a massive fan of processes. But that is also a struggle, especially if you're having teams that are coming together almost by accident. Do you get them to actually have that common goal and common vision? It's going to seem a little bit like I'm jumping a little bit, but when developing a team, the main thing that we need is a common purpose, goal and vision, or vision I'll put in there. We need to have that, obviously, so everybody knows where the end goal sits. Whether we're writing out different products, the team still needs to have a way of facing forward and a way of communicating with each other. you need to have specific performance goals for the team, but also then for the individual. So that's two different things sometimes, or it could be the same thing. It depends a little bit. As a manager, you need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses and the skills in the team, and try to get complementary skills, obviously, in the team. You have to have open communication. So all the team members, doesn't matter where they're located, need to receive the same communication and also be consulted in the process. And you have to have the commitment of all members. And it's not always up to the manager to do that. It literally needs to come from within the team as well. But it's obviously something that a good leader will always encourage. Developing the individual is probably one of the most important things you can do as a manager. And it's probably one of my favorite things with managing people is when you get someone in and you get to see them grow. And if you're lucky enough to be the person who's hiring these people, you will get an idea in the interview process as to what you're going to do with this person, hopefully. And hopefully then you have a decent amount of people to select from so you can get the skills that you want, but also in the interview process, understand what that individual is going to give you to work with. And I like to think most of the time, if we do have the time as managers, that we can leave people better than we found them, basically. That's one of the kicks I get out of managing people. When we're developing an individual, we want to clearly define the role for the person so they know exactly what we expect of them. We want to find out from the individual what their goals and skills and interests are so we can help almost leverage off that and say, what is it that this person wants to do and how can I use that to get them to do what I want them to do almost. I want to identify areas where people can grow, and I want to encourage that. And it's not only for themselves, but also for the team, because when people grow within the team grows as well. And it tends to just piggyback. If one person starts showing that they actually have the room to expand, normally the people around them will start doing the same thing as well. You want to pair individuals based on experience and skill if you can. So if you have junior people, obviously put them with more experienced people. But if you have skills that are different in the team, if you have the ability to just turn around and say, I have time to put someone who can really learn, it's going to be a little bit slower. But by pairing them with someone else, their skills are going to rub off, or they're going to know that they can actually learn this particular skill from another person. That's a great way as well. Coaching people is probably one of the hardest things to do, but actually allowing people to problem solve for themselves without leaving them sitting in a corner. So when they face a problem, talk it through with them, but actually getting them to find a solution for themselves. And it's really hard as a manager, especially when you're in a hurry, to give people the time to sit there and talk it through themselves and arrive at that solution. For someone like me, it's super tough because I'm super impatient and I'm always moving like this. But it's stepping back and going, you know what, they may actually have a much better solution than I have anyway. And hopefully they do, because I've hired them. So I've hired them to bring that extra bit into my team. So I've got to trust that too. You need to delegate responsibilities to your team members. It can also be really tough as a manager to do that, especially if you're a bit of a control freak. It would be me probably. And also with time limits as well. But turning and saying, you know, I'm going to get this person to own this particular thing. It might be something that sits outside of what's actually their role, but it's really important to the organization. And succession planning, which is always tricky because as technical writers, we don't have a lot of space to move upwards. There's generally not. You can come in as a junior and then become a technical writer and a senior technical writer, but it is always tricky for us as managers to say, where do you go next? So it almost sometimes becomes something that you go, okay, I will make this person a better writer, but I might actually lose them in the end because they're going to be so good that they want to see something greener, and you have to be okay with that. But then it also means that you have to have something coming up behind that person. So you think about that all the time. Growing teams and individuals, there's some challenges for all managers, I think, nowadays, especially with doing those things, and it's lack of time. You really, really spend a lot of time in meetings most of the time, laying out a plan when things are changing very quickly. Priorities may shift. You might have projects that move very quickly, and then all of a sudden they stop and you go on to something else. It's really easy as a manager to do the easy thing and focus on visible skills instead of starting and like I said, have those conversations with the person saying, what are the interests? Because sometimes people can be very good at something that they don't actually like doing. So they have this other idea of where they want to go, but it's not always the case that what you're really, really good at is what you really, really enjoy doing. And also most organizations nowadays will probably say, we want to develop people, but they actually lack the culture for it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because most companies, when they go out and recruit, will sell it, right? They want to say, oh, we want people to learn, people are our strengths and stuff like that, but they literally put people in a position and go, there's no room after that as well. And, you're here to be an engineer or whatever, and how do you grow that? But I think for us as individuals, and I think especially technical writers, because they're smart, they want to have that room to actually grow a little bit. So as a manager of a team, I have the opportunity to act as a role model. And that can be tough too when it's busy, right? But we want to try to do that. And it's probably one of the best ways for me to show people that there is that room to grow and to become more than you were when I found you, basically. You want to reinforce the value of learning. One of the things that I used to do at Aristocrat, I used to purposely factor in about 20% of my time for projects to be that space where we had time to develop, time to research things that we wanted to learn about. Anything that you wanted to do, that was hopefully every Friday, we would have that time to ourselves. And it was a really, really cool thing because we would have people who'd come in with really strong technical skills, but maybe their writing skills weren't that good. And they would automatically go to the guys that had really good writing skills and say, okay, I wrote this thing. How can I write it better? And when that happens, you see massive growth in the team. You had people learning to script, to make things faster for translations and what have you. It's so important to be allowed as a manager to factor in that time and have that luxury almost to say, you learning something when you work for me is going to contribute something better to the team, and not only to you, but also the organization. Also, you're going to find something really smart to do that's going to make my team more efficient. And that's always really brilliant. We want to develop processes that support it. Like I said, factoring in time and factoring in smarter ways of working just to get that extra space to allow people to learn. We want to link everyday tasks to the vision of the organization and the team so that you understand, hopefully, why you're doing something every day. If you come in and you say, I'm going to write this manual, and you're just writing that manual, but if you understand that at the end of the day, it's part of a bigger thing to sell that product, it becomes much more important. If you have a view of who's going to use your documentation, it's much more important. And also, last, probably learning to view problems as opportunities and try to focus on solutions and try to work together to do that. It's very easy when we're busy and we have projects going wrong that we forget that it's just problems, right? And what we do is we get together and we actually solve those problems, and we leverage off the team And we help individuals actually work through problems when they come up. So one of the things that I am quite big on is distinguishing between the management part of my life as a manager and the leading part, and then what I do with both. So when I manage people, I have people working for me. When I lead, I have people following me. So very, very different things. The management part in my book is more of the HR part, where I take care of the everyday business, approving leave and what have you, making sure I have people in my team, a scheduled time, but creating that vision and creating something for them to move forward and something that wants them to stay with me. If I develop them, I preferably want them to stay and work for me, right? Or if they worked for me before, that they want to come back and work for me again if I'm somewhere else. And I managed to do it. Look, I've sprung a different extra bullet. So I manage, I lead, but as a manager today, like I said, I do both. I want to have a balance, but getting the leader balance in there is really hard when we're really, really busy. So a lot of the times we see managers managing and we don't get that time to lead. Interestingly, if I look back over my career, I think decades ago, a manager was someone who told people what to do. And we went to this stage where we're leading people. And I think what we're seeing now more and more is more as a manager becoming an idea generator. So we work more towards an idea and people then start thinking what that looks like in their space and how they're going to work in that space. It's a different way of thinking where I probably don't sort of as much set a direction as in and coming up with a concept and we all work within that. I think we're seeing that more and more in organizations now. Recruiting. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. I used to at Aristocrat get probably about 120 resumes at a time for a job. And the trick there was to go and have a look at the stuff that I didn't want at all, that you could get resumes from people who really didn't fit the bill at all, and then go through and sift through what I thought would be suitable based on what their resumes looked like, and then try to figure out who I wanted to talk to based on the experience that they had, and then sit in an interview and realize that their resume literally didn't match the person, right? And you hope that recruiters weed this out for you. I had a person that came in, I was looking for a junior, really nice resume. And I thought, okay, well, it's a junior, so either I'm really lucky to be able to talk to this person or someone else has written their resume. I had the recruiter screen this person and she said, oh, she's perfect. She's going to be so good. And this really tiny Japanese girl turns up with a very broken English and she wants a job with me. And I go, well, and she said to me, it said in the ad that you would teach me. And I'm going, where do we start? And she goes, teach me English. So that could be one side of recruiting. And then sometimes you have people who interview incredibly well. It's almost like they're professionals at interviewing, and you get them in and you think you've got a best person. And it turns out they don't actually know how to do the job, but they've gone through polishing their resume, had a lot of coaching in interviews, and it just don't match up. And sometimes you have people who come in and they're really bad at interviews and they turn out to be the best people. So you've got to learn to really sit in an interview and listen to what's going on in between everything else that's happening. So the challenges with recruiting is that it's very costly and it's time consuming most of the time. It's always a challenge finding the right person. Possibly also because you think you know exactly who you want, and then that doesn't turn up and you're not ready to switch and think, this person I've got in front of me, can I do something with them? And also when you get new team members in, it's always a challenge integrating them. How do you get that person to feel welcome straight up? How do you get that person to feel like they know what they're going to do? How do you fit them in with the team members? How do you get the team members to understand why you hire this person? Because normally they're not part of the process. They've sat there and they know you're hiring and that you're doing interviews with the HR person, and then you come in and you go, ta-da, here's the new team member. And they've not understood exactly why you picked that person. So if you can involve people, you would, but it's not always possible to do that. When you recruit, obviously, then you have opportunity to inject new skills and ideas into the team, and you can allow team members to move on or up. So you want to stack behind. You don't necessarily want to put more experienced people in, but kind of let the people that you have in there, as they're growing, be able to move upwards. So the only way you're going to do that sometimes is to get other people in. And when you're recruiting also new people, it sometimes makes it a lot easier for people to change direction, or the team to change direction, because you're getting new ideas in as well. So this is probably my least favorite slide that I've got. You as the individual in a team, what you can do to be a better team member, because I think it's sometimes a challenge to understand what your manager's challenges are. And I don't want to go where or anything like that. But one of the things that I find is one of the major struggles for me as a manager is having people tell me when they face a challenge and say to them, listen, I'm going through a really tough time with, or I'm struggling with this, or I don't understand that, because I literally cannot help you unless you tell me that you've got something going on. So it's my job to try to help you. So I want you to come and tell me. Supporting your manager is really important too, because the manager is part of the team, or they should be part of the team. Understanding that there are times that your manager know more things than you and they can't tell you, and they have to do certain things that seems really contrary to what you see going on around you. And then trying to understand the constraints that the manager is working with. So sometimes we know we're too busy, but we're not actually allowed to go out and hire more team members because they're saying, oh, no, it's not in the budget. And it's really tough to say to the team, yeah, no, you're having to do overtime, but we can't get more people. And also foster honest and open communication in the team and with the manager. So, like I said, if something's going on, you tell them. And you say, if you need help, if you need to understand better where your manager wants the team to head. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying to your manager, I don't actually understand where we're heading at the moment. Could you give me some more information about that? That's pretty much the end of my talk, and this is going to be my favorite part, I hope. So I hope you will come with questions, because this is where I get to learn from you guys too. So any questions, hit me with it.